Over the next 7 days, I'm going to be building the biggest possible Lego clone army. I'm going to be adding hundreds of minifigures as well as loads of different iconic clone vehicles. Let's get started. So to get us started on day one, we have 2 of these fighter tanks. A package also arrived with a few individual figures that will open after we've built the tanks. So whilst the build is pretty simple, I've got to say this set has grown on me since we first saw it, and I actually think it's a really decent set. But now we've got it built, we can get rid of those droids, and as much as I love this Mace Windu figure, he's got to go. I went to start the second tank and cruise through the build. The worst part of this build is the stickers. There's just so many to add, especially in this central part. But again, we can get rid of these non-clone minifigures, and let's add our first clones to our base plate. So like I mentioned, we have this small package here that has a couple more clone troopers in. There's a couple of random ones we're not going to use in this army. And then of course for this section of the army, these guys are pretty relevant. We got 4 more of these 187th clones. So let's add these to our current tally. And I already had 3 others from the first clone tank that I bought, so let's add those to the army as well. So that's a good start to the army, but it's just day 1, it's going to get a hell of a lot bigger. I spent the rest of day 1 prepping for something that we're going to build later, but you're going to have to stay tuned till day 7 before we build this beautiful vehicle. So day 2 is all about the new LEGO 2/12 magazine that just came out. I spent the morning hunting all over my local area. If you want to see the full vlog, it's up now on my second channel, but I'd say we were relatively successful. And whilst we were out, we even picked up a couple more 501st battle packs for later in the video. And I am back. Let's have a look at how many magazines we managed to find. That's 25. We're going to move on to the other table now because we've run out of space. So that's 45 total magazines. We have 6 more from the 2 ATTEs that I've got. So that brings us to 51 of these figures right here. Let's add them all to the ongoing tally. And so after 2 days, this is our clone army so far. Although I do have one more little thing to add, and that's some custom arms for Commander Cody. So this is what he looks like before, and this is what he looks like after. These are from Firestar Toys, and you can get yourself a discount with this code that you see on screen right now. So I think those magazines should restock every couple of days. So hopefully this army will grow even more before the week ends. Okay, so it's day 3 now. We've got a load of phase 2s in the army already, but we've got to head back in time to the phase 1s. I've got 2 more clone packs, and I also picked up some more clone troopers from Bricklink, so we'll open that after we've built these 2 clone packs. So as this is such a simple build, I wanted to spice things up and challenge myself, so I tried to build this without instructions. Okay, so there's the first build done, and I definitely failed the challenge. I think I got some things wrong in the back section here. I'm going to open up the instruction manual and sort of work out what I did wrong, because that definitely isn't right at the back, but I think I did pretty well. But let's build it up properly, and then build up the second one and open the package. Now, I've got to say that was a lot easier with the instructions. So there's our 2 clone packs, pretty simple builds, but I've got a few more clones coming in this next package. So yeah, let's move that mess out of the way. And so yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of these regular phase 1 clone troopers, as well as an OG clone gunner. So now using this base plate, I'm going to combine them with my previous collection. As you can see, we added the regular white clones to the back and commanders in front. So that's 40 plain white phase 1 clones, as well as a load of officers here at the front. I armed them all up. I gave the officers these kind of small pistol blasters, and I gave our legion of regular clones just regular blasters at the back. We also have our 2 command stations and our 2 weapon racks, and our gunner right up here at the front. Now that's definitely looking pretty good if I do say so myself. I wish I had 50 of these guys. Maybe I'll have to buy a few more in the next few months because they're just getting more and more expensive. And so this is how big our clone army is after just 3 days. Can you imagine how big it's going to be at the end of the week? Stay tuned to the end of the video to see. Subscribe if you're enjoying so far, but let's move on to day 4. Time for day 4. I picked up a couple more of these battle packs, so I only have 2 so far, and that brings our total now to 6. So not only are we going to build all 4 of these, we're also going to be combining all 4 into one big build. So I pulled out all the minifigures from the sets, making a giant pile with all the parts. So not only do we have another 16 minifigures right there being all of these different 501st clones, but we also have a ton of pieces to build another awesome vehicle. I then hunted online for the perfect instruction manual, and I found a really cool build combining 4 of these sets to make one giant AV7 cannon, and so I got to work constructing this. And so there is the original build, and there is the new massive version of this. I really like the way this looks, but as you can see, it's a massive improvement on the ones in the sets, and when I buy another 2 battle packs, I'm going to turn all of them into these massive cannons. You can see we can add a minifigure onto the stand here. However, there's still the problem of no control panel, so I might have to go back in and add that. But overall, the designer did a fantastic job with what they had to work with, and I think it represents the AV7 cannons that we see in the Clone Wars really, really nicely. Oh, and we also had a ton of extra pieces left over, so if you need to boost your part collection, this is a good way to do it. I added the cannon over here in the corner of the army, and proceeded to line up all the 501st figures. I added the other 8 minifigs from the 2 sets I previously owned, and I've got to say they look pretty cool in this big squad right here. So now for day 5, you'll notice I have a couple of these ATTEs. But similarly with the instructions that I picked up yesterday for that AV7 cannon, I've been seeing a couple of really cool alternative builds using 2 of these ATTEs to create one big ATOT. So I grabbed my trusty brick separator and got to work dismantling these ATTEs, sorting every piece into a little pile at the top. So that was an hour or so of destruction and not even a full ATTE taken apart yet, so better go back to work. Despite the pain in my fingers growing, I pushed on with the destruction, piling pieces all over my desk. Despite how it looks, I promise you this isn't just a mess, and each piece is actually organized. So this is what pieces to 2 ATTs look like. I think there's over 2,000 pieces here. Hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit of the build done tonight. I hate taking Lego apart, and that reminds me that I actually just have to take apart my giant 50,000 piece Lego Kashyyyk MOC. So yeah, I'm gonna have a ton of fun with that as well. But nevertheless, I began the build. I'm genuinely pretty interested to see how many of these pieces we have left over and how many will be used in the actual build. So speaking of the build, we first built a small base where all the seats are going to be housed. There was a cool technique to round off the bottom section, and then we moved on to the head or the cockpit. This had some really cool angles and different techniques to get the nice shape. Adding the head to the model, it was now time to work on the legs. Now this vehicle has a whopping 8 legs, so you can imagine this section was pretty repetitive. But with those added to the ATOT, it was getting kind of late, so I'll finish this build on day 6. Waking up bright and early on day 6, I cracked on with the build, adding the back ramp and some cool side paneling to finish off the build. We finished the ATOT and it looks pretty brilliant. I'll go through all the details with you in just a second. I'm really surprised at how many pieces actually didn't need to be in the model. There's a load more pieces that will go into my collection, so that's really good. But that means I've now got to tidy all of that up, show you guys a bit more about the ATOT, and then I think we're going to go and hunt for a couple more 212 magazines today, and then probably get started on that final model that we're going to build. It's going to be even cooler than this custom ship. Okay, so we're back with more 212. This is what I picked up in the last few days or so. They've definitely been harder to find as the week has gone on. So we managed to find another 11 212 minifigs. They look pretty cool right there, so let's load them up. I'll probably have to grab a couple more from the base plates that are down there as well. But let's try and work out how many you need to fill an ATOT. So you got about 20 seats in the front here, and then you can stand a couple of minifigs up here at the back. Sadly, the ramp doesn't close, which I think is a real problem, but otherwise it's pretty cool. Those 2 seats in the corners here, you can see this guy has to be crowded over a little bit, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. But now I've actually got a really sick package to open for you guys. It's the first custom clones of this video. So this is a package from Blue Harvest Bricks. These guys are awesome, and they're a great place to buy any decaling supplies, custom weapons, custom clones, or anything like that. And these might be some of my favorite custom clones we've ever gotten. So yeah, inside of here we have 5 clones that Lego have never made. Commander Doom here to start with, of course, and then we have his Doom squad. We have a couple of little bits of customization we're going to do, so let's unbox these figs and have a better look. And so to start with, we have Doom. This guy is beautiful. We see him in the Clone Wars TV show. He has a really nice waist cape as well as some incredible printing. And of course, this guy was made by Clonomy Customs. He has a cool green visor as well as printing on every single side of him. Next, we have this heavy trooper who has a waist cape again as well as this pauldron and a really cool heavy helmet. You'll notice there are some slight differences between the torso and legs as well as the arms. All the figures from now will match this Doom trooper, but Doom sets himself apart with these different markings. Next we have this Bark trooper. Again, Blue Harvest Bricks included this beautiful cape on him. I think he looks fantastic, so thank you to Blue Harvest for that. Once again, there are details everywhere, including this Republic logo on his head, and I think the color scheme of green, grey and yellow go perfectly well together. The final 2 figures are grunts. We also got these macro binoculars, so I added it to one of these grunts right here. But you can see these are pretty much identical and look really, really nice, and they're just your regular phase 2 clone troopers. But let's add these guys to the army and we'll get to work on our final project. So now during the course of the week, I've been taking apart this Republic gunship, and now I'm going to spend the rest of my day building this up. I'm hopefully going to get a decent amount done today, and then I'll probably finish it off tomorrow on day 7. So this is a custom gunship designed by a guy named M5 Builds. The reason I had all the pieces bagged up was because I actually built this a while ago, but I ended up dropping it and just never got around to rebuilding it, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to come back in and finish this gunship. I actually forgot how good of a build this was. There's some amazing techniques in here, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who's looking for a custom gunship. And so that's all we're going to be able to build today on day 6. I'm going to head to bed, and then we're going to come back out and finish this model tomorrow and then set up the full army. Day 7, and it's time to finish the gunship, but before we do, I got a package from Xavi including one more of these 501st battle packs, so let's add this to the army. If you want to check out Xavi, there's a link in the description and you can use this discount code to get 10% off. But let's crack on with the gunship and add our last clones to the army. So we continued with the main body of the gunship, attaching it at the back and building up all the structure and supports, adding on panels to the sides and covering those in tiles, making for a really nice sleek design, and then finally building the cockpit area where the 2 pilots can sit. So as you can see, we finished the main body of the gunship. Let's see what this center section looks like with a couple of clones. So that looks pretty sick. This is a Wolfpack gunship rather than the sort of regular red gunships that we typically see, but I think it will look pretty cool with the 501st as well. But anyway, enough of the messing around. Let's add the wings to the gunship and finish it off. Before we got to the wings, one of the fiddliest parts to build was the doors. Obviously this is the Clone Wars version of the gunship, so we have doors on the front and the back, and whilst they might be fiddly, they definitely turn out really, really nicely. With those done, it was time to move on to the final 2 wings. These are built with bricks on their sides. Now with those 2 done, came the fiddly part of adding these to the actual build. Now having built this model a couple of times in the past, I have had problems adding the wings, but this went pretty seamlessly. And there is the finished gunship. It's definitely more of a display model than it is a playset. It's got 2 turrets on the front as well as a space for 2 pilots. The main center section can hold a fair few figures, and of course it's got the iconic wide gunship wings. If you're wondering, it probably cost around $150 to make. But now with our final vehicle of the week finished, it's time to assemble our full army. And so there is the army. After a week of building, we've added over 100 minifigures to the collection. Obviously that's not including any of the ones that I already had, like the 6 212th or the 2 battle packs, etc, etc. We have of course the ATOT, the tanks that we built, the gunship at the back there, and the AV7 cannon, which as actually turned out really, really nice. The blue of the 501st looks really good next to the giant massive orange here. And then of course our Doom Squad as well as our 187th look pretty cool over on this side. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, this is only a small part of my clone army. I think this took me over 600 minifigures now. So if you want to see my most recent clone army, check out this video here. And if you've already seen that one, I'd definitely recommend checking out this one. And either way, I'll see you over on one of those two videos. Goodbye.